Alrighty, welcome back to another video. It's been a while. I'm gonna address the elephant in the room. It has been like 8 or 9 or however many days since I've uploaded a video. I didn't die. If you follow my Instagram, which you should at over.shore, you would know my laptop was being repaired, and I've had a few other things. I was extremely busy on Saturday with UFC 254, and Khabib retired, and it put me into like a real short-term depression because Khabib is the GOAT if you follow the UFC.
Today, I want to say it was my last fight. And no way I'm going to come here without my father.
That one really pulled at my heartstrings, but either way, we're back on the grind with a brand new video. And this is a hot take. It's a hot take I got a while back, and I figured I'd save it for its own video. So here it is. Timothy Prince says, Luke Combs is great, but he's become stagnant and is one-dimensional. And this had me stumped for about 2 weeks. I just wasn't sure what to make of it. However, after the release of his deluxe album, I think I figured out why I stand where I stand and feel how I feel. But before we get into my thoughts, I was really curious what you guys thought. After all, the goal of this channel is to be a community, not me just barking my opinion for 10 minutes. So naturally, I went to my Instagram, and I asked you guys, is Luke Combs becoming a one-trick pony, or stagnant, or however you want to say it? I got a mixed response for sure. 79% of people said no, and 21% of people said yes. And there was also a portion that asked why or why not, and I had some interesting ones. Luke Hildebrand says Even Though I'm Leaving breaks out of the love/breakup style tracks he often makes. Charlie says he sees how you could argue it, but he doesn't agree and says Lovin' On You sounds like nothing he's put out. I would agree with that point. I think Lovin' On You is definitely a top 5 Luke Combs song of all time. Aaron says he does a great job with both upbeat party songs and slow love songs. Kaysen says he has a variety of songs content-wise. And Zach agrees his songs are sounding the same, but he has sonic variety in his early career, which, yes, you could argue, but I'm more focused in on mainstream Luke, and I'll expand on that thought a bit later. Zach did proceed, however, to make a great point. He says the main reason all of his music is sounding the same is because radio is promoting his songs that resemble his big hits. I find that an interesting little inquiry. And there's definitely some potential truth there. Joe says he loves all his stuff, he just hopes he expands in future projects. I agree with this, and again, I'll get into it more in a few minutes. But yeah, there were so many responses, I can't fit them all in, especially when a lot of people said similar stuff. So I apologize if your specific message isn't here, but I tried to make sure all the general points made it. However, one thing I could not exclude was potentially the hottest take of all time. Alex says he does a great job of modern bro country, however, he doesn't like his new stuff, and I'm going to quote Alex here. I'm not a big fan of his newer stuff like Even Though I'm Leaving does to me, and a song I hate so freaking much, Beautiful Crazy. If you're asking me, each of those would easily be in Luke's top 10, arguably his top 5. I'm just shocked how Alex emphasized his hatred for Beautiful Crazy. I mean, we're talking about the 2019 CMA Song of the Year with writers Robert Williford, Luke, and of course Wyatt Durrett, whose credentials and resume would take too long to list off. Also, by the way, Alex, you're probably watching this, I'd assume. Don't take this personal. It's just a very bold, controversial point. So, with that in mind, I think I'm ready to hop into my take on this debate. Here's the thing. You'd be lying if you said Luke didn't have one of the best sounds. Luke took the country music world by storm. He just kept going up, putting up monumental numbers. He was so universally loved. He was a nice middle ground for hardcore traditionalists and not shallower but more easygoing listeners of the genre. Luke found this great formula that just pumped out hit after hit, but I feel he's milking the cow a little. His songs just don't have the same level of irresistibility they once had. So let's take a step back and look at the mainstream journey of Luke Combs. In 2018, he released This One's For You, and with it he established this fantastic sound with clever, just overall great songwriting. His sound and style was so fresh and new, therefore it resulted in big-time success. It eventually got remastered and only took off from there. To my knowledge, that album had 5 singles and they all went number 1. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure he was on way to dethroning Shania Twain's Come On Over as the album with the longest reign at number 1, but the release of his new album, What You See Is What You Get, finally dethroned his freshman record. He stopped himself from having the longest number 1 album of all time. Just so you can gauge the magnitude of this album's success. He then transitioned into his sophomore album, which he teased with a phenomenal EP featuring a few songs you may have heard. Just little cuts like Beer Never Broke My Heart, which became this monster of a single, his 6th #1 song going platinum and selling 321,000 copies in the United States alone as of March, and his next single was Even Though I'm Leaving, which also hit #1, and Lovin' On You, which you guessed it, went #1. So it was going to be hard for Luke to top the success of This One's For You, but he was looking pretty strong. The prequel EP was a 5 out of 5 smash in my opinion, but then we received the remaining 12 tracks from his sophomore LP, What You See Is What You Get. And though by no means the 12 tracks are bad, there's definitely some highlights scattered in there, but my main issue was that the record on the whole, excluding the songs from the prequel, felt very safe. The prequel suggested we were going to get some creative masterpiece that would top This One's For You, but rather we got 12 super safe tracks. For the majority, all of these songs followed this formula I was talking about, however, not to a T like his deluxe album does. Which leads into what sprung this whole conversation. I was quite disappointed in the 5 tracks released on October 23rd. They all felt very factory produced. He took this formula and inputted 5 new tracks into the calculator, and out came his deluxe album. He didn't even try and spice anything up. The most adventurous part was My Kind of Folk having a slightly different beat, but it doesn't help because it was easily the worst track here. For context, let me introduce you to the Luke Combs formula I'm talking about. We get an introduction with basically the whole instrumental palette all at once before stripping down for verse 1. The tracks are 2 verses and 3 choruses with a little 2-liner bridge. There's an instrumental which will consist of a type of guitar solo before stripping back for the first half of the final chorus. However, not only is it this consistent Control-C, Control-V formula, but he's using the same instruments. It's the same electric guitar, the same drum kit, the same everything. And in turn, even if the songwriting is good and diverse, it's held down by this droning, repetitive heard-it-before sound. I just find the song hard to believe when a breakup song sounds identical to a track about relaxing on a Friday night. He does have variety in his songwriting, although we have been seeing a slightly concerning shift towards more checklisty lyrics in his newer output. But then the sound of the track just fails to follow suit, in turn making every track just sound kinda mediocre and vanilla. If you're going for an emotion on a track, you need to hone that emotion in. You want the listener to feel the emotion you're trying to convey. But the entirety of this deluxe album made me feel nothing. It left me with no desire to revisit it, and ultimately for me personally, a big factor in a song or album being good versus great is if it actually makes me feel something. By no means do these tracks have a bad sound, but there's a time and a place for this formula to be applied, but that time and place isn't on every single track. Try some new percussion or drum kits, a different guitar, structure the songs differently, add a funky tuning, a different time signature. There's a million ways to make each track original and its own, but currently everything Luke Combs is putting out is sounding scarily similar, in my opinion. Of course, please remember, this is my opinion. I'm not correct, I'm just sharing what I think. So now getting deeper into Luke's career, personally, I'm hoping for some change. Take a risk on a track or two. Like I said, the release of his deluxe album really solidified my beliefs. I knew what was going to happen before it happened. All 5 tracks were extremely predictable and in turn felt pretty bland. So in conclusion, I think Luke is an excellent songwriter with great vocals, and he had a good sound. He just needs to explore a little more and change it up. Try things. There's no harm done in having a wacky single that doesn't end up working. Just move forward. I would much rather see Luke Combs try something and have it not work out, as opposed to him releasing 17 more carbon copies each year. It's not that he has to change drastically, but just mix it up. Be unpredictable. Or in my opinion, we could be looking at Luke Combs kind of fading out a bit. I think this is a great little debate, so please be sure to comment below your opinions on this topic. Where do you want to see Luke Combs go next? Where do you think he's going to go next? Also, be sure to follow my Instagram at over.shore to participate in future content and stay up to date. Last thing, we are really close to 500 subscribers. I'm not going to sit here and beg you to subscribe and get everyone you know on board, though I wouldn't discourage that. I'm just going to say that I'm doing a Q&A at 500 subs. Questions do not have to be related to country music at all. It could literally be, what did I eat for breakfast this morning? I just want to give you guys an opportunity to get to know me a little better. You can comment your question on this video or DM me on Instagram, but yeah, other than that, I think I've said everything I needed to say, and yeah, have a great day.